I'm Ladar Greve-Lazi, and welcome to another episode of One on One, a special series from ILTV in partnership with Israel Bonds. In each episode, we sit down with real people with unique perspectives on identity and purpose who are choosing to make a difference and dive into the impact they're having along the way. Today's guest is a multi-talented force in the world of entertainment and a passionate advocate for Jewish life and identity. Jonah Platt is an actor, writer, musician, and producer whose work spans television, Broadway, and beyond. Following the October 7th attacks on Israeli civilians, Jonah launched his most personal project yet, his podcast, Being Jewish with Jonah Platt. Jonah has quickly become one of the most important young Jewish advocates reshaping conversations around Jewish identity. He's a proud supporter of Jewish education and summer camp and a dedicated investor in Israel's future, quite literally. Jonah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a beautiful intro.
Thank you. So I want to jump right in and take you back. Start from the beginning. So you come from a family with deep creative roots. Can you tell us how that shaped your path as a performer and storyteller?
Yeah, absolutely. My parents met in college, and one of the things that brought them together was their shared love of the performing arts. It's something they both had done their entire lives. They're both singers and actors, loved musical theater. And so as they raised their family, me and my four siblings, they imbued us with that same love of the performing arts. You know, there are videos of me and my siblings and my cousins when we're all toddlers until we're 16, doing shows in the backyard and performing in musicals left and right. So it's always just been in the water at my house, and it seemed natural to me that I would pursue some sort of path in that arts, performance, entertainment world as an adult.
So just before we continue, I want to give a quick word from our sponsors. Israel Bonds is the most direct and impactful way to invest in Israel's future while also investing in yours. Invest in what matters most to you. Invest in Israel through Israel Bonds. You can scan the QR code now to invest. And fast forwarding, what's been one of the most unexpected things you've learned as the host of Being Jewish?
Oh gosh, I've been fortunate to learn so much. I've done now, I don't know how many, 75 episodes or something between the long form and the short form. So I've had the opportunity to speak to so many interesting guests from all over the spectrum of Jewish and non-Jewish connection. And on top of that, I speak online to thousands of people every day, Jewish and not Jewish, from all over the world. So to pinpoint sort of one unexpected thing I've learned is kind of tricky. I think, excuse me. I guess nothing sort of catches me off guard anymore. The key and sort of really the key to a lot of what I'm doing on the show and in my general advocacy is trying to keep the door open for a really wide-ranging array of viewpoints and of thinking and of identities. So I guess the one thing that's unexpected, like a certain identity I didn't think I was going to be faced with, are Orthodox American anti-Israel Jews. I didn't have that one on my bingo card, and I've heard from some of them in my DMs, which is fascinating, and we've had some great conversations. So that was a new one. And I guess, now that I'm thinking about it, the thing that would probably be the most pleasantly unexpected is the way that my show has for some people, and I know this because they tell me, become sort of this haven in the landscape of outrage and polarization and doom scrolling. I didn't really set out to necessarily be that. I was just sort of doing what I wanted to do. But I've come to learn that it's very few and far between the kind of programs like mine where you can get a break from feeling terrible about things and come and feel a sense of ease and calm and even positivity.
In a world where entertainers are often encouraged to sort of stay in their lane, You've actually chosen to use your platform to speak up, not just as an artist, but as a proud Zionist. I mean, what do you think other Jews in Hollywood can be doing better? And how have your own actions and decisions been received by your industry peers?
That's a big question, right? When it comes to Hollywood and entertainment, what could Jews in that industry be doing differently? And it's a big question because it's not monolithic, right? We're talking about a lot of different kinds of Jews in a lot of different positions. So it's very nuanced. I would say generally, the area where I wish we could be stronger that seems like the easiest lift are with engaged Jews, people who care, people who are connected to the mainstream and global Jewish community, people who love being Jewish, who love Israel, all of that, who have been afraid to take up more space within the industry and use their voice, use their influence, use their position for the benefit of our people in what is essentially a selfish, self-preserving kind of way, but is a way that's, I think, completely legitimate and a way that we see many, many other minority communities doing. We see the Asian American community saying, we need to make more Asian American projects. We need to have more Asian American directors behind the camera and writers in the rooms, and they put an effort into that. They're open about it, and it's a shared goal of that community. I think the fear within the Jewish community in Hollywood, that fear of people pointing fingers and saying Jews control the media or they're too insular, whatever, all these tropes that, by the way, they say anyways, whether we do it or not. I think the fear of those tropes keeps a lot of people quiet, and the only people that helps are people who want to keep Jews quiet. So I think that's sort of the biggest issue and the biggest fix, the easiest thing that would really move the needle. And there are, of course, exceptions to that. There are people very much so using their positions, their spheres of influence. I just interviewed last night on my show, it'll air in a couple weeks, the producer Lawrence Bender, who, Academy Award nominated producer here in the States, who went to produce a mini-series about October 7th in Israel because it was important to him. That kind of thing is going to be critical if we're going to move the needle at all.
So, really, as anti-Semitism becomes more visible globally, what role do you think artists and influencers have or should have in shaping this sort of cultural response?
So I think there's two different answers there because I think it's different for artists and for influencers. I think artists can actually have a bigger impact than influencers, even though our culture is so obsessed with influencers right now. The way to get to people's hearts is through storytelling. It always has been. That's why we've been doing it since, caveman times. Creating narrative that humanizes Jews in an authentic way, contemporary stories of who Jews are. Because remember, most people on earth really don't understand who or what Jews are, including many Jews, unfortunately. There's no cultural touch points other than what you see on the news or what limited storytelling exists in the film and TV world. It's a lot of historical stuff. It's a lot of sort of tangential stuff. It's not a lot of, here are these great characters, these human characters going through stuff that we all go through, and they happen to be Jewish. And now, without realizing it, I have this connection to Jews in a way that I didn't even intend to. We sort of have to backdoor that in the way, great storytelling does and helps us get out of ourselves and find our parallels with our own experiences to the characters that we're falling in love with and the journeys we're relating to on screen. So I think putting an emphasis, and again, it comes back to that Hollywood question, it comes to Jewish artists and creators saying, I want to focus my talent and my relationships and my position on lifting up these humanizing, contemporary, totally entertaining on their own merit stories that happen to be about people who are Jewish.
And so you've been very open about your Jewish identity and experiences, especially at Jewish summer camp. How has that influenced your life and your work today?
In terms of being open about it, that's like the heart of everything I'm doing. Is I want to model for folks how I think we as Jews need to be moving throughout the world. It's one thing to talk the talk, it's another to walk the walk. And I'm also sort of living proof that not only are you going to be okay if you do it, your world's not going to collapse, but you're going to feel better doing it. You're going to be attracting other people who want to be doing that and care about the same things you do. You're going to feel support. And I think a lot of the fear is, if I take this step, I'm going to lose all the support that I have in my life. But actually, anything or anyone you would lose is not real support. It's a model home with nothing inside. You got to step past that, and then you get to the real stuff, the good support, the people who actually care and love and feel the same way that you do. In terms of summer camp, it's been hugely formative for me because of the relationships, really. My best friends are still my camp friends that I met when I was 9, 10 years old. Those are my groomsmen in my wedding. Those are my boys. I also was very fortunate to get to go to camp with my siblings and all of my first cousins on my mom's side and a bunch of second cousins. So we all grew up together every summer, and those bonds and that time together is paying tremendous dividends as adults. We're still so close. Our kids are close. It's really, really a beautiful thing. And then on top of that, camp gave me this Jewish literacy that I would not otherwise have had, because as a Jew in America, you are a minority in a majority country, and you never really get to immerse yourself in just being that identity from sunup to sundown, except when you're at camp, when you get to do it for a bunch of weeks in a row with no break. There's no, going to Jewish day school and then you go to your after school activity and you're out in the world again or whatever. It's just all Jewish all the time. And there's something kind of magical about that you don't even really realize perhaps while you're there, but seeps its way in. And certainly upon reflection as an adult, I see how crucial and what a gift that was.
So if you could send a message to the 9, 10-year-old version of yourself at Jewish camp, or even today a message that you would share with your children, what would you tell yourself or them about sort of pride and purpose?
Wow. Well, 9, 10-year-old me, I guess, you know what? I would tell 9, 10-year-old me what I tell my listeners, and that is to go full Jew. And what I mean by that is, certainly as diaspora Jews, I can't speak for Israelis, though I imagine there's got to be something similar. There's always a voice in us that says this thing that maybe our gut or our instinct wants to do because inside that feels right or feels fun or feels connected. There's that voice that goes, I don't know, it's too Jewy. It's too othery. It's too unassimilated. It's too dorky. It's too fake. It's too made up, whatever it is. But when we ignore that voice and push past it and do the thing our gut is saying, hey, you actually want to do this. Like, it actually will feel right. It does feel right. It feels great. It feels more in line and authentic and whole. And 9, 10-year-old me definitely had inklings of these kinds of things. My connection to being Jewish as a kid waxed and waned. Sometimes I was fascinated by Pirkei Avot and I wanted to read more. Other times I was ditching prayers at every opportunity I could and trying to not have to do anything that was being asked of me. So just knowing that it's okay to go full Jew and good things will come from it, and you get to sort of set your own meter of where that is. It looks completely different for every different person. It can be something big or small. There's beauty there, and to not be afraid of it.
And so beyond being a proud Jew, you're also a proud Israel bonds investor. So can you maybe tell us what inspired you to become a bond buyer, and why that kind of tangible investment in Israel's economy and future matters to you personally?
Absolutely. Well, like many American Jews, certainly of my age, I was born into Israel bonds, and they all matured, when I was, like 27 or something. I got like 600 letters in the mail of like, your thing's maturing from your bris and from your bar mitzvah. So, we're all aware of Israel bonds. And when I had my own kids, it made perfect sense to me to be able to do a sort of 2-for-1 of investing in their future by putting some money in something for them, and that thing would be Israel bonds. Especially, my daughter was born in 2023, my other daughter born in this past year. It's an important time right now to be doing what we can to invest in Israel, who is going through so much and has so much work ahead to rebuild and to re-nourish its society. And so it's sort of an easy equation for me of putting their money into something meaningful, something that, I can set it and forget it, and something that sort of puts my money literally where my mouth is, in that, we get to tangibly support Israel, the place we love, our homeland, in a way that sanctifies this, rather than just putting it in an index fund or something. For my kids and for their future at this level, it feels more meaningful and purposeful and intentional to do it in such a way that we're really paying it forward to our own people as well.
So, this series also explores Israel's unexpected allies. And so I want to ask if there's anyone who's surprised you by standing with Israel or with the Jewish community in ways that you maybe didn't anticipate.
Well, as Jews in this situation, I think most people would agree, like every ally that stands up, you're like, oh my God, there's an ally there. Like everyone sort of feels surprising because there's so much hate, and it should be the reverse, right? But we're just so grateful for every single person who stands up. I think two people, I could name so many, and I've been blessed to have so many fantastic allies in my life and on the show. Speaking on the show, I'd say the two, well, I'll give you one of each, one from the life, one from the show. In life, John Ondrasik of the music group Five for Fighting, as he's known. Not surprising that, he's a great person, but surprising of how important the issue, especially of the hostages, became to him, and speaking out about this stuff, where he's, performing songs and doing re-releases and concerts and reaching out to people, all to try to uplift that story when he absolutely didn't have to. That's really been amazing. And then the other one I would say, and again, not really surprising when you know the guy, but surprising to the degree to which he has put himself out there and called balls and strikes, is Van Jones, who I have had the pleasure of having on the show and have had the pleasure of being in collaboration with on a number of bridge building endeavors, specifically between America's Black and Jewish communities. And he has been an unbelievable ally, publicly, privately, doing the work, saying what needs to be said, trying to influence others, trying to do exactly what we've talked about earlier in this interview, using his relationships, using his sphere of influence to really intentionally make something happen for these two groups specifically, who, as he will tell you, good things happen in this country only when the Blacks and the Jews are working together to make those things happen. And he really cares about that deeply. And he's been absolutely incredible on all things Jewish and Israel.
Yeah, I think you're right that the Jewish community especially really is always a little bit surprised when there are non-Jewish allies standing by, and very grateful and supportive of that. And so continuing along that line, is there any sort of story or encounter that maybe you have that, reminded you that your Jewish identity resonates with people beyond just the Jewish community?
Yeah, all the time. There's a significant portion of my audience, both on social media and on the show, who are not Jewish. And I actually posted recently, I said, where are my non-Jews at? Because I just wanted to sort of gauge what the situation was. And I got so many wonderful messages from countries all over the world of people who are paying attention, people who are tuned in, people who get it, people who support us. I think what makes me smile every time is when I'm out in public. And it happens all the time at the airport. I don't know why. I travel a lot, so maybe it's just that's where I happen to be. But I'll get comments on this Jewish star necklace all the time from non-Jews, being like, love your necklace, love your pendant. What is that? That's beautiful. And I'm always so pleasantly touched and surprised when that happens. It's happened in other countries. It's happened in Mexico a few times, again at the airport or at the hotel. non-Jewish people commenting on it, saying it's great, asking about it. So it can be very easy on social media to make ourselves think that everybody hates us. And it's just not the case. It's just like the algorithm pushes the loudest haters in our face, and we mistake that for volume of humans out in the world feeling that way. But most people, A, aren't really thinking about this stuff at all, and B, are curious, well-meaning, decent people who are kind and just looking to understand more with genuine curiosity.
I think that's such an interesting point, that social media doesn't always reflect reality. And it's an incredible story to hear, especially at a time when many Israelis, many Jews around the world are being told to hide their symbols, hide their Star of Davids, hide any Jewish symbols. So that's a very sort of positive and heartening story to hear. So, I also want to ask if there was a message that you would share with young people today, especially those who are trying to stay hopeful, trying to stay proud of who they are. I mean, what would that message be?
Yeah. There's no reason not to be proud of who you are. Like, never, whatever your identity is, you should never sacrifice yourself and your own authenticity and your own sense of pride in who you are for the benefit of other people. It's not something you would expect or ask of someone outside yourself, and yet we don't give ourselves that same grace enough. So I would say, things that help with feeling empowered and feeling like you can fully embrace who you are is knowledge. Knowledge is power. So I think, understanding these situations and the facts on the ground from all sides, that can be really helpful. So you feel like, you've got your head on straight and you know what you stand for and what you stand by, and that you're not saying anything untrue. All of that stuff helps. But at the end of the day, really, it's about loving yourself and not be willing to compromise that self-love for the benefit of somebody else who doesn't have to live your life, whose opinion should not matter and should certainly not factor into the kind of person you're going to be in this world and the type of life you're going to live and the type of person you're going to project yourself as to your relationships, to your family, to your children, to your work colleagues. Be you, be yourself, be proud of who that is and what that is. And remember that Jews, this is the last thing I'll say, we are the most resilient, defiant, countercultural people in history, arguably. There's a lot of pride to take in that. And so just flipping that switch from we're the most persecuted people in history, which is also arguably true, to we're the most resilient people in history and the most countercultural people in history, and taking pride in, wow, look what we've done, look how we're still here, and I get to be a part of that chain. How lucky am I?
Absolutely. So that is such an important message to share. Jonah, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story, opening up your heart and your voice with us today. Your words remind us that creativity, identity, and purpose all come together when we build together for something greater than ourselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Toda rabah.